Demons beat the Bulldogs in the battle for first.
Essendon dispose of a very stinky West Coast Eagles.
And the Lions hit top form ahead of the clash against the Demons. This is the DrewFooty Show.
Long road, took a tumble down this black hole. Stuck in Sunday league, but I'm on level.
Hello, you bonkers, and welcome back to another episode of the DrewFooty Show. Back again for another episode. If you want to be involved next week, go follow DrewFooty_ on Instagram. Get your questions in there. Let's get on with it. Bloke of the week this week. It's actually from last week. I had to apologise, but I didn't see this until midweek. Geordie McCleary, AFL YouTuber, making great AFL content for the Melbourne Demons at the moment. Melbourne Fan TV. After their loss at Adelaide, he interviewed this nice young man. And you haven't seen this yet.
I haven't seen this.
It's absolute gold, and this is as bloke of the week as you'll ever get. So have a watch.
Melbourne Fan TV, after the game, 1 point loss.
All I want to say is I'm bloody proud of this football team. This football team has done unbelievable this season. We went 9-0. That is the best that I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. I've been a member of the Demons for 18 years and I'm 21 years old. This season is the best season I've ever seen. I'm proud of these Dees, and I can promise you next week against the Doggies we will beat them by 10 goals. I'm proud of this team. They gave their all, and we will get them back next week. The Dees are going to win the flag.
There we go.
That's class. Had the confidence in the Dees to go and beat the Dogs, and they did.
I was surprised that he said he'd been a member for 18 years because I was looking at him going like, this 15-year-old's absolutely fuckard.
Yeah. But Melbourne supporter, you are the bloke of the week. So shout out to you. For any bloke of the week nominations, send them in to the DrewFooty_ Instagram account. That leads nicely into the first game of the round, which was Melbourne versus the Western Bulldogs. We live streamed this on the DrewFooty YouTube channel. And what a convincing win this was by Melbourne. Everyone thought this was going to be a very tight game based on form. I tipped the Bulldogs, and all in that lead up to the game on the stream, I was thinking, I've got to change my tip. I've got to change my tip. In my head, I was like, Melbourne are going to win this. But I don't know, I just felt like the safe tip was the Bulldogs, and I was wrong with my tip. Melbourne put in one of the most solid defensive performances I can ever remember seeing. Just absolutely shut down the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs weren't very clean with their ball use throughout the game. Quite a few turnovers in that first quarter in particular that cost them. But even when they tried to switch the ball, Melbourne were set up so well behind it. The Bulldogs just had nothing going forward for them. Melbourne were clinical when they went forward. Bailey Fritsch had another big game. Shout out to the Dees. I love the Dees.
Yeah, I like you, tip the Dogs. It's hard to look past the momentum sometimes going into a big clash. The Dogs obviously just came off an 111-point win, and the Demons had their first loss of the season down in Adelaide.
Exactly.
So you can't be forgiven for thinking, oh, maybe, the momentum will see the Dogs win at Marvel, especially, the Dogs are a good Marvel team. Mm-hmm. But there was a massive statement made by Melbourne. They're absolutely the real deal.
Yeah, the fact that the Bulldogs won by 111 points the week before, and then they were kept to, 55 points overall?
Something like that.
That just shows how good Melbourne are. So, shout out to Melbourne.
We do have a question from Liam.Chandis. How far do you think the Dees will get this year?
If they don't get into a prelim, it's a failure for the Dees. They have to. Obviously, they haven't been there since 2018, but before that, it's been a long time. They're gearing up to be in a prelim. I see them playing the grand final, and I wouldn't put it past them to win the grand final, to be honest. What about yourself?
Yeah, for me, they're still the premiership favourite for me. They're just the quality they have all across the field is what sets them apart from someone like a Bulldogs, as we saw on Friday night, rather. Yeah, so they're, sitting 10-1, and you can look at teams historically who have gone 10-1 and then fallen short. The quality of this team is that much higher. It's so obvious, and they've also dumped a lot of the other big premiership contenders. They've beaten Richmond, they've beaten Geelong, and now they've beaten the Dogs. Their only slip-up was against Adelaide, who probably won't feature in finals. Probably a good thing that if the games they drop are not against the other major contenders. I think there's a bit of a mental edge they've got now, but they've also got a huge test this week against Brisbane.
An absolute stinker started off the Saturday games, Collingwood and Geelong at the MCG. No crowd, once again. But yeah, this was an absolute shocking game. I really don't get Geelong, to be honest. They have all the quality. They show up to some games and just put on an absolute clinic. I said it before, Geelong just have these real stinky patches where they look terrible and then real great patches as well. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, I watched this game and a lot was being made of how poor Collingwood were, and I think that was a little bit unfair. Yes, they were goalless at halftime. They had one goal to three-quarter time, but the fact that they were still in the game in the last quarter says just as much about Geelong as it does about Collingwood.
Sure.
And if Collingwood kick straighter, They could have potentially won the game, and they're only down by 10 points. So all in all, I don't think Collingwood should be too upset about what happened.
We got a comment here from Mitchy Ryan, and he says, hard to look on the bright side at the moment for the Pies. Are there any positives this season for the Pies?
Positives so far would be very few and far between. I think you and I, well, certainly me, I'll speak for myself, thought the Pies would be a lot more competitive this year. To be third last with the list they have, I think is a massive indictment. But that doesn't mean there can't be positives, and I think the Eagles are kind of reaching this point as well. Like, what can you get out of this season? I think for them it's a focus on getting the games into the young guys. They still have a good young core, I think, and they've obviously invested in the draft in recent years. And I thought Quaynor was really good for them. And
yeah, he's been really solid this season.
Exactly. Finn McRae got a little bit of a taste as a medical sub, so I think that's got to be the focus for the rest of the year because finals are gone.
You look at the last few results for the Pies, so they've lost to Geelong by 10 points. The grand final side. 1 point lost to Port, they're a top 5 side, and the week before that lost to Sydney, who have looked really good as well. So in the last few weeks, you have been competitive with all these sides. You haven't really just bent over and taken a loss. So you're being competitive in the last few weeks. So I suppose that's a positive that they can take.
Yeah, I mean, it would be worse if they were getting battered.
Exactly.
And probably could have had more reward for the opportunities they've created. Obviously, what were they, like 1 goal 14 or something at one point.
Yeah,
so
that's disgusting.
Yeah, it says a lot about their ability to take their opportunities.
Another pumping up in Brisbane versus GWS. Brisbane are looking in red-hot form, Jesse. Disappointing for GWS, who have been looking in good form, and you said last week they're probably in the finals mix. Where do you think GWS are sitting at the moment after that?
Because of the teams like West Coast and sort of like falling away a bit in estimations, I think they're still in the finals mix. Had the Eagles got a win, I would have been like, oh, that door's getting close to shut. But now I think Essendon beating West Coast kind of opens the door for a few teams. So I still think GWS are good enough to be in the mix. Honestly, I think the talking point from this game is how good Brisbane are. They just sort of walked into an absolute storm at the Gabba, and obviously they're a fair way off the top sides like Brisbane, but Brisbane are probably the top form team of the comp right now.
For sure. We got a comment here from J.S. Neil, Jizzle Neil, 05, and he says, are the 2021 Lions better than the 2020 Lions? And what about Robbo? Did you see Robbo?
I did see Robbo.
He was fucking unreal. One of the best games of his career, this late in his career as well. He's not shy, that bloke. Like, he puts his head over the ball every time, just runs through packs like a steam train. You'd love to have 22 Mitch Robinsons in your team. Just the amount of passion that bloke plays with, it's very rare to come by. There's been clear improvement across the last 12 months for the Lions. Obviously, they had a bit of a slow start this season. Red hot form now, so hopefully they can carry that form throughout the season.
I think they're at least as good. They were very good last year, but what you can point to this year is a bit worse injury luck. Lockie Neal's obviously been injured. Did Harris Andrews miss a bit of footy?
Yeah,
either way, you compare it to like the last couple of years, they've had a very good injury run. And the fact that last year they barely travelled, like they barely left their state all year. Obviously, still played away games at Metricon, but yeah, there was a bit going for them, and this year it hasn't been the case, and they're still just as good a team. So yeah, I'd say in some ways they've come a long way.
Brisbane in red hot form, coming up against the top of the table Demons. Who's your tip for this game? This is going to be such a good game, man. I think I'll have to tip the Dees. I've learnt my lesson, but then I might get this tip wrong. I don't know. What do you reckon?
That is the downside of tipping the wrong team.
Yeah.
Very true, yeah. Oh, this is a tough one as well. I don't want to seem like I always tip against the Dees because I tipped against them last week, and I still think they're the flag contender, whatever happens, this game. But I actually think Brisbane's going to win.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tip Brisbane.
For all of next round's analysis, make sure you go check out Just the Tips where we look at all the games next round. St Kilda versus North Melbourne.
Clash of the Titans, you could say.
Yeah, St Kilda versus North Melbourne. Did not watch this game because who would? Absolute stinking teams. But St Kilda just won the game as they should against North Melbourne because they were a top 8 side last year. They should be expected to beat North Melbourne.
But it was 5-1 to North in the last quarter. So this could have been a bigger win for St Kilda. Just a pretty unconvincing win against the worst team in the comp.
Another clash of the Titans, Saturday night, Gold Coast versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn's bad season gets worse, Jesse, but it was a solid performance from Gold Coast. They've lost their last 3, needed a big performance. Their last win was against Collingwood at the G, so yeah, it's been a while since they've won. And they fired up. Their forward line, Ben King, Isaac Rankin, and Alex Sexton combined for 11 goals. So solid signs there for Gold Coast, back in form. Should be beating a team like Hawthorn at this stage in Gold Coast development. They've got all the quality there. Yeah, it was a comfortable win for Gold Coast, so congratulations, Gold Coast. You're not absolutely stinky. You're just like mild stink. Just chicken in the bin sort of stink.
That can get pretty stinky though.
Yeah, or chicken in the bin for 2 hours.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
For this, Hawthorn, bad season getting worse. Really no positives recently. You're getting loser of the week this week, Hawthorn. So, sorry.
I think that's fair. I mean, Gold Coast are not easy beats, but I think to not even be that competitive against a team that's not much higher than you on the ladder, it shows how much Hawthorn have fallen away in the last few weeks.
I went out Saturday, and I should have stayed in, Jesse, to watch West Coast get dicked at home by
Unfortunately,
Essendon.
the game was cancelled due to COVID. I wish.
Nah, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
We were speaking last week about Essendon's momentum. They've come over to Optus and they've got I would say, a surprising win. Just based on the fact that West Coast is so solid at home. Mm-hmm. But as a West Coast fan, you know all the ins and outs. What happened?
People who didn't maybe watch the game and just sort of watch the scores go up and down, maybe someone like yourself as well, to see the Eagles 5 goals up and then lose, it may have looked like, the game switched or like the momentum changed. But to be honest, it was threatening to happen all night, even though the Eagles were 5 goals up. Essendon was just getting, a lot better possession. They were a lot more attacking with the ball. The Eagles were never really truly convincing at any time. And if you look, I think we kicked 9 straight goals, including some tough shots, before we registered our first behind. So the Eagles being clinical in the first half is literally the only reason we got out to that lead. And even though Essendon swamped them in the last quarter, it was 22 inside 50s to 6. It wasn't really a surprise. They were finally just getting reward for their effort, and 16 points probably flatters the Eagles.
We got a question here from Will Thomas 14, and he asks, can Essendon make the top 8? They are, I would say, right in that mix. If a team's going to drop out, Essendon will probably, at the moment, based on form, be the team to put their hand up, probably along with GWS. So can they make the 8? And what did you make of their young players? Because from just the clips and highlights that I saw, Archie Perkins looked really good. Nick Cox, I don't think he had a massive game, but he's growing week to week. What do you make of the Essendon's young team players?
Yeah, they were good. I think Essendon had a lot of winners all over the park. I think we'll go back to the cliche one, Darcy Parish. I think they've won 5 out of 6 games where he gets over 30 possessions. So
True.
He just had an absolute field day, as did Merritt. And there's a lot to like about Essendon's young talent. As I said, they moved the ball aggressively. Stringer back in was really big as well. He kicked 3 goals, and Hooker had 2 really important goals. So it was just a really good team performance. And they've got a lot of good young talent.
You see them slipping into the 8?
Oh, yeah, I think they're a chance. I think this was a big step to, they claimed a big scalp away from home, even though the Eagles are kind of, a bit unconvincing themselves. I think the biggest argument for them making the 8 is the fact that it's the Eagles they've beaten. So the Eagles now look like they're a bit vulnerable. GWS and Sydney, I think, are still higher than Essendon. They don't look super convincing right now. So, I think it's more about what other teams are doing, because Essendon are probably good enough to make the 8.
Yeah. You did predict that Essendon wouldn't be a bottom 4 side at the start of the season. Where'd you predict them to finish, about 10th or 9th?
So my prediction was that they would stay in touch with the 8 for the whole season and then fall away at the end like Essendon always does. So that could actually still be the case.
Looking good, buddy. They've got Richmond this week. The Sash versus the Sash. Dream time at Optus. So we're definitely going to go to that game.
Yes, I'm keen.
So there'll be a vlog out for that game on Sunday. Essendon, you are the winners of the week. Good job, buddies.
I'm not happy about it.
On the other side of the ledger, West Coast lost. So we've got a question here from the big homie, Matt McCann. He's asked, Eagles to miss the 8, discuss. Do you see them slipping out?
I can see them slipping out. I'm not going to bet on it as such, but the injuries are also taking their toll. It's not the reason where we are where we are, but Tim Kelly might be out for a couple of months now, and it's already like an undermanned midfield. Allen's out for a couple of weeks with a concussion. We've got some big games against Dogs, Richmond, and then Carlton this week as well. So, then a lot rides on the next 3 weeks. If we can pinch 1 or even 2, then yes. If we drop all 3, then I'm inclined to say we're gone.
The injuries that you have, everyone has injuries, but Luke Shuey is your... Well, Shuey and Yo, really. Is Yo back yet?
Yeah, he came back on limited minutes this week.
Okay.
So, obviously, he's not quite himself, so it's not really a big in yet.
But you've missed Joe for the whole side of the season. Luke Shuey, those are your probably 2 out of your top 5 most important players for your system to work. And now with Tim Kelly out as well, he's been getting into real good form in the last few weeks as well, so that's a huge blow for him to miss as well.
I think injuries are not the difference between us being top 4 and where we are now. It's obviously a lot broader than that, the issues, but it certainly doesn't help that we struggle with clearances inside 50s and general supply, and then our engine room has been hit hard this year. It doesn't help, but obviously if we can have a better luck with injury in the second half of the year, then that makes a case we can make the 8.
Richmond played Adelaide at the GWS Stadium, wasn't it? I thought it was going to be the SCG for some reason. But this was a very fun game of football to watch. Very entertaining. It was going back and forth. Adelaide stayed in the contest for about 3 quarters. Even in the last quarter, they kicked the first 2, I think, to keep it interesting. But Richmond just saw the game out. Jack Riewoldt looked like Nick Riewoldt, one of the marks of the year that one and Sydney Stacks are going to be hard to separate.
But Sydney Stack didn't win Mark of the Round, so I don't think he can.
Does that not qualify?
I'm pretty sure you have to win Mark of the Round to qualify. Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous. But to go back with the flight and then get on someone's shoulders, get levitation, grab it, and then to cop the contact as well.
I think that's probably my Mark of the Year.
Yeah, has to be. But yeah, Jack Riewoldt also kicked 5 goals, had 20 touches, so probably one of his best games of the year. He's not going away. Young Jackie Riewoldt.
No, he's a champion.
He's 5th in the Coleman as well, so he's sticking about. Another forward for Richmond that was good was Callum Coleman-Jones. That's his name. Nice. Come in for Tom Lynch. He's been kicking goals in the VFL, I've heard. Comes into the AFL. Second game. I think he played once in 2019, but yeah, first game this season. Kicks 4, so good on the young man. And Hugo Ralph Smith. Yes, that's a strange name, but I like it.
Name, yeah.
He kicked 2, wasn't huge, but the goals he kicked were very nice goals.
Yeah, the one from on the 50-metre line, that was sick.
And probably a contender for the next Bailey Smith in terms of shit haircut and good looks. So shout out to him. But yeah, Richmond with a professional win away from home. Sydney versus Carlton at the SCG. Another good game that was an entertaining watch, but Sydney got the job done, as they should, against out of the top 8 side. When you are a top 8 side, was the point I was trying to make. That was difficult. Obviously, as a Carlton fan, you expected to win every week, no matter who you play against. But to a Sydney side at home who needed a win after a big loss to the Dockers the week before, sort of not the worst result you can get. Cripps had a big game. Walsh continues his great season. I think he should be All-Australian this year. And Heaney was huge for the Swans as well.
Yeah, Cripps in particular is the one I'm most pleased about because he's starting, I think, over the last 3 weeks maybe to get back to his form. He had 3 goals and 27 and laying a heap of tackles each week too. So yeah, good to see the big fella back at it. So we'll go to another question, this time from Corbin J33. With St Kilda and Hawthorn as the Swans' next 2 opponents, can they challenge for the top 4?
That's going to give them 8 points. So who's above them? Port Adelaide and Geelong, right? Those are 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Port play Geelong. Not this week, but the week after, because Geelong have the bye. This is 8 points. Chalk them up already for the Swans, I think. What? Chalk them up. If they can get those 2 results together, obviously Brisbane have Melbourne as well. So those top 5 sides, the order is expected to shuffle. If Sydney can just keep getting points on the board, they could go into the 4th temporarily. I don't think they'll end up there in the end, but...
Yeah, well, that's 2 different, very, very different questions. Can they slip into the top 4 in the next 2 weeks, or can they finish in the top 4? I'm inclined to say the chances of them finishing the top 4 are so slim because I just really rate that top 4. Mind you, I was making the point that I thought the top 6 or 7 this year were really strong, and the Eagles have shown they're probably not as entrenched in that as I thought they were. So then again, Melbourne, Brisbane, and the Bulldogs not going anywhere, so they got to displace Geelong. I just don't see it happening.
The last game of the round was the Dockers versus Port Adelaide in Port Adelaide. And what did I say last week? If Dockers have a lapse of a quarter or 10 minutes, it'll cost us the game. And we didn't show up in the first quarter and they score fucking 47 points. Game over as soon as it's fucking begun.
Carl Amon's 16 touches in a quarter as well. That's stinky. I mean, great for him. Stinky for you. Was it really that bad?
The second and third quarters were better and the start of the 4th. But there's just so many things that seem to be easy fix. Just like effort. Examples like Sean Darcy on the mark, just sticks out one arm, hardly moves sideways, could have got an easy smother, that led to a goal. Blake Acres in that first quarter, just not running hard. It seems like the culture at Freo is just very laid back. The side as a unit just doesn't want to get the best out of all the players for whatever reason. Some of the players like rock up late to training. There's some players that are obviously just not invested in the Freo project, so they don't really give their all to the side, and it's clear to see. I don't know, I could harp on all day. There's players that play with lots of passion and integrity. Like Andy Brayshaw had a great game. Nathan Fyfe was orgasmic at times, but diabolical other times. His set shot kicking, man, 20 out in front. Go back and fucking kick a goal. How hard is that? How hard is that, Jesse?
A bit.
I could harp on all day, as I said, but at the end of the day, losing away to Port Adelaide isn't the worst thing, but just have some fucking effort, man.
As an outsider, this game went pretty much exactly how I'd expected it.
Yeah.
And I always look at how teams go at certain grounds, and that's how I correctly tip we get pumped by Geelong despite the form lines going in opposite directions. And this week, even though I've talked about how I respect Fremantle as a team, I just thought going to the Adelaide Oval and playing Port, it never ends well. And that's
Did you
exactly
see those middle 2 quarters though? We were on top.
I did see that, yeah.
That's what we need to show up with. We can't fucking show off and just ease ourselves into the game.
It's true. Although Port are such a damaging side that they can pile 7 goals on in a quarter.
Yeah, I think it was probably a mixture of Port being good and Freo just not being ready to play. But
fair enough.
That will wrap up this episode of the DrewFooty Show. If you want to be on the episode next week, make sure you go follow DrewFooty_ on Instagram. Go check out Just the Tips for all of next round's analysis, and we will see you at Metros.
Bye!